Hey, and welcome back to Game Talk. I'm your host, Sam, and me on today I'm joined by Connor.
Hey guys.
We were thinking about what we wanted to talk about, and I happened upon some news that Lara Croft was voted the most iconic video game character of all time. Now, I don't know, the breadth and scope of this poll. I think it was, localized to the UK or something.
Their polling methods were horrible, and calling it news is kind of generous.
Yeah, I mean, I call it news because it generated quite a bit of discussion online. And I think maybe we can weigh in on this and just in general talk about iconic video game characters, because there's no doubt Lara Croft is a very iconic video game character. But when she's up against the likes of Mario, that sounds like kind of an absurd pick, don't you think?
I don't think that I don't think you can pick a character to be the most iconic character in gaming if they're not in Super Smash Brothers.
There's definitely an argument for that. You know, that's a very Nintendo-centric viewpoint.
It is Nintendo-centric. Is Lara Croft even in Fortnite?
Yeah, I believe she is, actually.
Okay, because I would say that they're Lara Croft doesn't make my top 20, I don't think, most iconic video game characters. She was extremely iconic for 5 years in the 90s, and then disappeared for 15 years, and then she had another batch of good games in the 2010s.
Yeah, she had another batch of good games. She had some movies, I believe.
Yeah, but most iconic is just insanity to me.
Yeah,
she's not Master Chief. She's not Mario. She's not Nathan Drake. She's not Joel or Ellie.
Well, I mean, even with all those examples you listed some very iconic characters, but there's just no way any one of those supersedes Mario to me. I feel like there's not even an argument there. Any video game enjoyer can acknowledge, whether you like Mario or not, that Mario is pretty much the face of video games.
Yeah.
The entire world knows who Mario is. I would wager there, and this is kind of getting, maybe this is up for debate, but I would wager there's more people who know who Mario is than even Pikachu.
No, I don't think so, because Pokemon is the biggest media franchise in the world by a lot.
It is, but I mean, everyone knows who Mario is. I guess by that token, everyone knows who Pikachu is.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah. I mean, but certainly, if you're thinking of the two most iconic video game characters, those two have to be it, right? I can't really think of anyone else.
Nah, and Pikachu was number 8 on that list or something from...
Yeah, that's a bit whack. I just, I just don't get it. Even Sonic, for all the flack we give him, is an extremely iconic video game character.
No, I mean, I have a great deal of beef with any polls like this because they're just super easy to get a bad result out of. In the same way we often get a bad result out of our brackets and stuff, but it's just, I mean, it's the same. You just can't trust polling. It's very difficult to do a poll that is a general measure of a population.
Yeah.
It's the same with political polls, although we're not going to get into that in any meaningful way. But everybody knows that those are at best unreliable.
Right. But yeah, it did get me thinking, right? I think this is a kind of fun thing to think about. To you, who are the most iconic video game characters? And you listed some of them already for me. I think, for PlayStation, yes, Joel and Ellie are iconic, but to me, the face of PlayStation as of now is still Nathan Drake, even though he has not had a video game for, I guess, over half a decade now. I think the impact Uncharted made on PlayStation as a brand is still largely felt today, and I still really associate PlayStation and Uncharted. I associate Nathan Drake with PlayStation, is what I'm trying to say, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I think of the best commercial PlayStation ever made, which was it was all the characters. It was Kratos, Nathan Drake, Lara Croft might have been in it actually, but they were all sitting in a bar toasting the player. I forget what the player's name was. It was Tom or something. Do you know the one?
Okay, so I thought you were talking about the one where they were all in an amusement park or something.
No, that's they're in a bar, and they're toasting to a player who saved their lives a bunch of different times. It's a really good commercial.
That's a neat idea for a commercial. Yeah, that's cool. But yeah, you mentioned Kratos.
Kratos is good.
I think I was gonna say, if you were to poll PlayStation fans, I think Kratos would probably get the majority of the vote.
Or Spider-Man at this point.
Yeah, or Spider-Man. But, Spider-Man
Not a
has a
video
lot of
game
other
character.
baggage.
Yeah.
Like...
No, PlayStation has a problem. Like, Microsoft has Master Chief. Nintendo has Mario. PlayStation doesn't have somebody that's been around since the beginning, really. Like, Spyro...
Yeah, and I think that almost makes PlayStation a little interesting, because I think for PlayStation at least, that seat is always revolving. Like, I do think Nathan Drake sat in that seat for a long time, but if I were to be objective about it, like, to me, he still is in that seat. But if I were to be objective, I don't think he is anymore. Like, right now, there's an argument for it to even be someone like Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah, because that game sold so well. Yeah.
It's cool that they have, it's kind of like a passing of a torch type thing at PlayStation, but at the same time, I don't know. I think it would be cool to think of PlayStation and think of like one character. Because you can certainly do that for Nintendo and Microsoft and Xbox.
Yeah, it limits their ability to become an all-time great, I guess, in the way that Mario is.
Yeah, for Nintendo, like, obviously you have Mario, you have Link, and you have Pikachu. I think those three sit in an echelon of their own.
And then on the side, you have, like, Samus and, mainly Samus, I guess.
Mainly Samus.
Yeah, well, I guess you could, on the side.
Like you said earlier, you could sort of look at Smash Brothers for Nintendo and see kind of everyone.
Like Samus, Kirby, kind of in the same tier. Although I think Kirby's ahead of Samus. Kirby's
probably more popular.
Yeah, love me some Kirby though. Kirby is like what I think of when I think of a Game Boy. Is Kirby? Like, I feel like he was the perfect character for the Game Boy.
Yeah.
Although I guess Pokemon, but
yeah, I was gonna say Pokemon is it for me, but
I'm a platformer guy. I'll choose the platformer of the RPG just about every day of the week.
Man, Nintendo. Who else for Nintendo? Like, I feel like there should be a lot more, but like we listed the big heavy hitters. Well, Donkey Kong, obviously.
Yeah, Yoshi, Wario. Yeah. Donkey Kong. I forget how big he was.
Donkey Kong was huge.
They let Donkey Kong rot for so long.
Yeah, I'm surprised that at the, I guess, infrequent nature of Donkey Kong game releases.
No, it's ridiculous because even like he had 3 back-to-back, I think, amazing games. I know at least 2 of them were amazing on the Super NES with the Donkey Kong Country series, and then nothing, and then like Donkey Kong Country Returns on the Wii, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, which is like perhaps one of the best maybe the best platformer of all time, 2D platformer in Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze.
Yeah.
And then nothing since then, which is just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a bit silly. I mean, they do release some of those like Mario versus Donkey Kong like arcade remake kind of games, but that's not really a Donkey Kong game. It is a little silly to me that, like you said, since I think Tropical Freeze is the last one, and that was an immaculate.
Yeah,
one
they
of the
got a
best
re-release on the Switch,
so.
But that's not the same. That's kind of nothing. It's just letting people play the game that was trapped on the Wii U, essentially.
Right.
Rayman has a similar story, although I don't think Rayman's early games are nearly as good as Donkey Kong's. But Rayman Legends is in the running for greatest platformer of all time, in my opinion, as well.
Right.
And they've not touched that in a decade.
Well, yeah, I mean, Rayman himself is not too, I guess...
he's pretty iconic. People know Rayman. He was
Rayman,
Ubisoft's
like,
GOAT for a long
versus
time.
Donkey Kong, though, I mean...
Yeah. I don't know.
But
That's
yeah,
hard to say.
Okay, yeah, if with following up on that, Ubisoft, like, who do you think of when the word Ubisoft
Ezio.
is said? Yeah, I was testing you. I also thought about Ezio. Ezio popped up in my head. Yeah, which is crazy. It's still
Assassin's
Ezio
Creed
after
2
all these
made
years.
that company.
Yeah, it truly did. And not only did it make the company like financially, much like I guess Uncharted for PlayStation, it defined the quote unquote Ubisoft style game, which now has a quite negative connotation, I feel.
Ruined Far Cry forever.
But no, back then, like, that was a pretty novel idea. Like, the Ubisoft climbing the towers, checkpoint style game, that was offering an open world in an era when, like, you didn't really see a kind of game like that often, unless, like, Bethesda released it.
Yeah.
So, back then, at least, it was like, oh my gosh, Ubisoft is on top of the world. Look at this cool Assassin's Creed open world historical franchise. And as they tend to do, they ran that into the ground. But yeah, Ezio certainly, I think, is the face of Ubisoft even today.
See, I would put Ezio at Lara Croft tier. Like, I'm still on that. Like, Ezio,
Yeah, I don't know
Lara
if I
Croft.
agree.
Like,
Lara Croft as a character was a big deal. Like, her historical impact, I think, was more than Ezio's.
yeah, that's
Like,
true.
more people
And
know who Lara Croft is than Ezio.
She was an early woman protagonist in gaming too, because people didn't
Yeah,
know
I mean,
Samus was a girl.
She was like the face of women protagonists in games for the longest time.
And also the face of sexism in games for a long time.
That's also true, yeah.
Fun to be both. Yeah,
Right.
I just she's in a tier. I would say she's higher than Ezio. But like
she's
same
definitely
tier.
high tier.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, she doesn't even approach the tier of, in my opinion, Mario, Link.
No, like everybody knows. I don't think as many
Master
people have
Chief.
played Zelda games, pre Breath of the Wild Zelda games, as I like to like pretend have played it, but they know who he is.
Right.
And
Link has a ubiquity that approaches Mario level,
yeah,
I feel like.
despite not having Mario level sales usually.
Right. Although, I guess with the latest two games, that is starting to change, which
That
is
has changed.
crazy.
Yeah.
It is crazy that to most people, Breath of the Wild Tears of the Kingdom is what Zelda is.
Yeah.
You know? That's kind of wild to think about. To me, these games are still like an interesting direction for the series, and a preferred direction, don't get me wrong. I think those games are far superior to what came before in many ways. But the kid in me, the nostalgia in me, still thinks of Zelda as games like Wind Waker and Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess.
This is like an aside, but the thing that was nice about the Ocarina of Time formula was essentially used for Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, not really Majora's Mask, but a little bit Majora's Mask, but then really for Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword, that was all following a formula that was like started in A Link to the Past and then perfected in Ocarina of Time. And it had staying power, that formula did, in a way that I'm not sure the Breath of the Wild formula has. I don't want to do Breath of the Wild over and over again the way I was comfortable.
I do not think they can release another follow-up in the vein of Tears of the Kingdom. Like, they have to do something radically different for the next game, which I'm excited to see, because I totally think they're going to do something radically different and totally deliver on it, because that team is just really
they don't
special.
miss much.
Yeah. Kind of a little bit of a tangent there, but I thought it would be kind of interesting. I have this list pulled up of how the characters ranked, and we can sort of go through it, talk about
who was
character.
it that did this poll before?
This poll was done by BAFTA.
Oh, okay. So it would be British. Yeah.
The
See,
BAFTA
Lara
Game
Croft has an
Awards.
advantage among the Brits.
Right,
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, taking that bias into account, I think it would be cool to go through this list and talk through all the ranked characters. So, number 20, Nathan Drake. And I'm glad that he's on this list. I've said before in the podcast, I feel like almost I overestimate how relevant Nathan Drake is. Like, to me, like I said, he's still the face of PlayStation, but I don't think many people think that way anymore.
No, I think 20 feels good for him. He was huge on the PS3, but gaming kind of hit a new audience, PS4 era.
Yeah.
And, you know, like when I meet a new person in my life, I can't assume they know who Nathan Drake is.
Right. But yeah, the flip side of that to me is if I meet a new person and they know who Nathan Drake is, then I instantly know we have some sort of common connection there.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. But 20 feels right for him, I think.
Yeah, 20 feels right for him. And I do think his star will sort of rise again with the release of the movies. The movie did really well. That introduced Drake to a new audience through Tom Holland. And we're going to get a second one. So I think Drake isn't done quite yet. But moving on, 19, another PlayStation character, Ellie from The Last of Us. And yeah, I mean, she is an extremely iconic character. And once again, with the HBO show, it just going to catapult that character's popularity.
Yeah,
into
19 feels
the
right for her
stratosphere.
too, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I do think, based off how that character's story concludes in The Last of Us Part 3, which hasn't been confirmed, but I'm positive is happening, I think, based off what they do with her, obviously, could either send her much higher or lower on this list. So I'm eager to see how her story concludes. So 18, getting into some more historical characters now. Kazuma Kiryu.
That's high for Kazuma.
Yeah, Kazuma Kiryu, number 18.
That's Yakuza, right?
Yakuza, yeah.
That's high
So-
for him, in my opinion. That's really high for him.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I don't know, man. Like, I feel like the people who play the Yakuza games
They love him.
will have
but
a much, yeah, exactly. But
They're
but
not
that's the thing. Yakuza is a
super high
very
selling. Yeah.
unapproachable franchise because it is a franchise I very much am interested in. It's just too daunting.
But if I walk up to somebody on the street, they're going to know Ellie. They're going to know Nathan Drake way
Right.
before they know who Kazuma Kiryu is.
Of course, yeah. But I think, like this poll is from I guess a gamer-centric audience and not just a general population
It
audience.
is, yeah. And I should think of it
So-
in that context. And I do think... I would wager most people who are listening to the show know who Kazuma Kiryu is. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's fair. I wasn't thinking through that lens. You've got a good point.
17, which is kind of funny. Asterion from Baldur's Gate 3.
Sure. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, if we're
Iconic.
talking iconic characters, he was a great character. Really,
If you're
well
going to
acted.
include somebody from Baldur's Gate, it's going to be him. But
Right. Yeah, it just seems a little premature to do that, in my opinion.
he wasn't
but-
even in my party for half the game because I didn't he
Right.
threatened me at the beginning and I left him behind because I thought he was a dick.
Yeah, I don't know. So, yeah, that one's the first one on this list where I'm just like, this is a little weird. I don't think this really belongs here, but I like him
Yeah.
a lot. He's a good character. Number 16, Cloud Strife. Extremely iconic.
Maybe a little low for him.
I was going to say probably a little low for Cloud.
Yeah,
and-
that's hard to say.
And this is coming from someone who is not
Haven't played
engaged
any
really
Final
with
Fantasy
Final
7
Fantasy
content. Yeah,
7
but he's in
yet,
Kingdom
but-
Hearts too.
Oh, is he really? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, he and Sephiroth are both in Kingdom Hearts.
I knew Sephiroth was, and
I'm
that's
pretty sure
so
Cloud
wild
is
to
in
me.
it. I never finished Kingdom Hearts, so
Kingdom Hearts
I've
is
only
another
played
one
the
of those
first
game
one.
series where I'm like, I'm interested in you, but like I'm afraid of going down this rabbit hole.
It has a lot of we don't have to get into it.
It's like
it's tough.
Disney fused with anime, fused with
Yeah.
Final Fantasy. Like, I don't know.
It has aged extremely poorly in some parts, just extremely poorly.
Right. And I remember all this hype around Kingdom Hearts 3 as like the conclusion to the story, but apparently it came out and just
People
was
didn't
set
like
up
it.
for Kingdom Hearts 4.
People also
So-
didn't like 3 that much because they really half-baked the Disney parts. Disney didn't give them enough room to play in those worlds, I
so
guess.
it was literally just a JRPG.
It was just a retelling of the Disney movies during those Disney
Oh.
worlds. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think it's a neat idea. It's something you don't really see
Yeah.
much.
I think the problem is I think some Kingdom Hearts fans confuse a convoluted story with a compelling, intelligent story. And you can be both, but you're not making a story convoluted does not necessarily make it smart.
Right. And I hear that Kingdom Hearts has like the most convoluted story of all time, like
Yes.
Metal Gear levels of convoluted.
Yeah.
But I think
The first one doesn't. The first one's
Cloud
very
Strife,
straightforward.
though.
Cloud Strife 17 is... I have to hear what comes after him to decide whether or not that's too low.
There's some pretty heavy hitters on here,
Yeah.
and some not so heavy hitters that I. But yeah, I think it's fun that you don't know what's on this list. So
Yeah,
there's an
I
element of
I
surprise here.
looked at it, but I looked at it like briefly.
You just glazed over it.
Yeah, and not today.
But yeah, Cloud is extremely iconic, the face of Final Fantasy, one could even argue. So I'm kind of surprised he's this low, especially in wake of the remakes that they're doing really well.
Yeah.
But number 15, Crash Bandicoot. And he absolutely deserves a spot on this list, probably a higher spot on this list. He was the face of Sony for PlayStation 1, and he's still relevant today, although, not as much, but
I'm holding out for copium that Spyro does better on this list than Crash, but
but certainly one of the most iconic platformers of that era.
15 feels right for Crash for me. They were positioning Crash to fight Mario and everything, and frankly, he beat Mario in many ways, but who's the one still getting games? That's my question.
Right. So number 14, Solid Snake.
That feels right.
Highly iconic character. And Metal Gear is an incredible franchise, like I said, with a convoluted story. But
did they say specifically Solid Snake?
Solid Snake, yeah.
Interesting. So not Naked Snake or
yeah, but I think Snake, I don't know. Like, to me, there's like this umbrella that captures that character even through all the different like iterations of it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not how people were thinking about it, but it did say Solid Snake on here. But the interesting thing about Solid Snake versus a lot of the other characters on this list, I don't know if Snake is ever going to come back, really, because with the messy divorce between Kojima and Konami.
Yeah.
And Konami, like, the first thing they did after Kojima left was Metal Gear Survive, which was like a complete perversion of that franchise. So I don't know. Like, I think Snake might be kind of tapped out, but he's certainly had an immense impact in the decades that preceded his final appearance.
Yeah.
All right, number 13, Steve from Minecraft.
Not really a character, I would argue.
Well, I guess Smash Bros would beg to differ, but
I mean,
he is the face of Minecraft, for better or worse, right? So
tell me one thing about him.
He's got a blocky head.
Yeah, okay. Tell me one non-physical characteristic.
He likes mining and crafting.
There's no reason to believe either.
Right. He's not a character, but he is a face. He's a face that represents one of the biggest gaming franchises.
If you're gonna put Steve, like, why can't I? Like, is the Dragonborn gonna be on here? Like, if the Dragonborn is on here, then I'll allow Steve. But
the Dragon, what a pull! Oh no, Dragonborn is Skyrim. I was thinking of like Dragon Age. Yeah.
No, the Dragonborn. You're thinking of the Arisen. Or no, that's Dragon's Dogma.
you're thinking of Dragon's Dogma. But anyway.
Or the Monster Hunter. Like, if the Monster Hunter was on here, Steve would be on here. But like,
Steve
he's not a character.
I see what you're saying.
He is iconic. Like, everybody knows.
Yeah. But he's not a character.
Yeah.
He's just like an insert.
Yeah. Like, the first thing you do is change your skin.
Minecraft is like extremely popular.
Nobody wants to play as Steve. Like, everybody changes their Minecraft skin to not be Steve anymore. Like,
yeah. All right, are we ready to get into some spicy selections?
What number are we
here?
on? What are
number 12?
Yeah,
Pikachu.
Pikachu's number 12.
Yeah,
that's so low. He should be number 1 for sure.
That's kind of shocking to me. I can't believe
ridiculous.
Like, I'm trying to rationalize it.
See, now I'm just sitting here thinking, this is not a measurement of how iconic a character is. This was a measurement of how much they like a character. Like, they didn't understand the assignment of the people they were polling. Yeah. Like, not liking Pikachu is reasonable.
They titled this thing Most Iconic Character Poll. So,
yeah.
I guess, yeah, I don't know. Like, this is the first result that I think every other entry so far you could make an argument for. There's no argument for this.
Pikachu not even in the top 10.
This is just wrong. Like, yeah.
That's so bad.
I mean, Pikachu, like we said, has this level of ubiquity that transcends media. Like, everybody on the planet pretty much knows who Pikachu is. So, weird choice. Not sure about that one. And the next one's going to make you so mad, Connor. Above Pikachu at number 11, Arthur Morgan from Red Dead Redemption 2. So don't get me wrong. Arthur Morgan is a fantastic character.
He's not iconic, though.
One of video games' best written characters, I would argue. But iconic?
Nobody knows
Pikachu?
Nobody knows who Arthur Morgan is. Oh my god.
Yeah, that's I don't know. I would love to get into the head of, or just talk to the people who ran this poll, so maybe they could explain the reasoning a little bit, because there has to be some reasoning behind this.
No,
right?
It's not. I know what it is. It's that people take these polls and they don't really read the prompt. Like, it's the same thing when people don't really think about what greatest of all time means, and so I always end up being mad about the results. Nobody actually wants to play Ocarina of Time over modern Zelda games, but they're still going to say that it's the greatest of all time because it's the one they have the fondest memories of. Like,
right.
And so like they're not, they read iconic and their brain says my favorite character. Which character did I like the best?
Right,
And
yeah.
So it's not,
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't think
wish-
it's complicated, but
Hopefully, I don't know the verbiage of the poll when it went out, but hopefully it was something like I would have liked for it to really specify not your favorite, but what the most iconic is, because I think that data would be really interesting to see.
it's really hard to word a poll correctly. I actually,
Right.
it might have been my statistics class in college where like we were talking about how difficult it is to get someone to be honest on a poll because it's so easy to sway someone's response with your wording.
Yeah. So, very goofy choice, I think. If we're truly taking this poll at its word, and we're talking about most iconic video game characters, yeah, in no world is Arthur Morgan above Pikachu. Number 10, Shadowheart from Baldur's Gate 3.
Okay, Baldur's Gate 3 should not have gotten multiple representatives in this.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
Insane. And also, Shadowheart is only higher up than Asterion because people wanted to sleep with her. I'm sorry, guys. Like,
oh, very true. I mean, I think all the characters in Baldur's Gate 3 were good characters. Like, they had character arcs and had distinct characteristics and all of that, but as a character, Asterion was definitely more interesting than Shadowheart, in my opinion.
Yeah, like, Shadowheart has interesting development and stuff, but I would wager a lot of people never even saw it because you have to... Like, Asterion is instantly interesting. Shadowheart is just mean to you for, like, 10 or 15 hours.
Is a slow burn, yeah.
Yeah, it takes a very long time to even get started.
Yeah, that's a silly placement for this character.
And she's just not the face of the game the way Asterion is.
Yeah, Asterion really is the face of the game.
Yeah, I mean, literally, isn't he on the box? Like, he's the big face on the box? Like,
right, yeah. So, goofy one. Number 9, Kratos.
Okay.
So
I wouldn't put him
makes
top
sense.
10, but I'll take it.
I think, like I said, I think nowadays he is the face of PlayStation. So
yeah, by that argument, yeah.
With that argument, I think, yeah, this is a good spot for him. Like, he should be, in theory, going toe-to-toe with the heavy hitters from Microsoft and Nintendo in terms of being iconic.
Yeah.
And
to be clear, I'm not saying... I mean, obviously, Kratos is a better written character than Mario. We're not...
Right, yeah. We're not...
Yeah.
If I guess that's an interesting poll, too. We could talk about best written characters, and this list would be completely different.
Totally different, yeah.
But,
Lara Croft
yeah,
still
Kratos...
wouldn't be on it.
Especially with the newer games, really well-written story arc, and I'm excited to see where that character goes next, because unlike some of the Sony representatives on this list, he has still a lot more story to tell, I feel.
Yeah.
Number 8, Master Chief.
That feels right.
I think this is right. Master Chief probably should be in a top 10. Master Chief, if you held a gun to my head, I would probably say he's more iconic than Kratos, even though it's probably close.
Yeah. No, I would say Master Chief is more iconic. Nobody is you don't have an iconic video of people singing any of Kratos' music in the men's room. Like,
and it's
the finish the fight stuff
crazy,
was huge.
like,
yeah.
Master Chief isn't as big of a deal today as he was back then, but back then Master Chief was a phenomenon. Like,
he was on top of the
finish
world.
the fight, the Halo 2 and 3, like, yeah, Master Chief was on top of the world. And it's just crazy to see how far he's fallen in comparison, because he's still relevant. Like, they're still making games with him. They're just not using him well anymore, I think.
No. I mean, yeah, even Halo Infinite gameplay-wise was immaculate, but this, I don't remember anything about the story. Like,
right.
Was
Number
not fun.
7, Link.
Okay, yeah. 7's... I'll take 7. In a personal list, he'd have probably been higher, but I would take 7 for Link. And now I know I'm going to get mad about the people that beat Link in the next few.
Well, actually, looking at this list, there's a couple that you'll get mad at, but some of them I think do deserve to be above Link. But just talking on Link for a minute, Link is a fascinating character to me because, like, he's more of an idea than a character, right? Because there's so many Links.
Yeah, he's just a self-insert character. Yeah.
Right. But he's a self-insert character at the same time, but, like, he does have unique I guess, character quirks. I mean, he's
Yeah.
not like a
He doesn't talk.
exquisitely written character like Ellie or whatever, but yeah, he is a little bit more of a character than, I don't know, Steve.
The last 3 games have made him a lot more of a character than he ever had been before. Like,
right. He does have more personality in the later games, and he had plenty of personality in Wind Waker. Like,
he did.
He was
Wind
very
Waker.
expressive in Wind Waker, but
honestly, yeah, Wind Waker and on, because like they're not the same character, but like the Wind Waker Link was very expressive, loved his sister, would have done anything, you know. Twilight Princess Link, hard to explain, but big edgy teenager energy from him. Yeah, but they're different characters. That's the funny part. And then like the Link of the Wilds is its own character where he was like,
yeah, and I think that character-wise is my favorite iteration of Link, just because you see him like reacting a lot more to people in funny ways, and I think there's just like this level of expression to him that's present in the latest 2 games that is a step above what came before. So,
and like some of my favorite stuff in Tears of the Kingdom was finding out what Link and Zelda were up to in between the 2 games.
Right. Yeah. So number 6, Pac-Man.
Yeah, Pac-Man's pretty iconic. Again, barely a character. Well, barely a character in the version of him that's iconic. I think the Pac-Man World games might have had more to them, but I don't think a lot of people played those. When people think of Pac-Man, they're thinking of the arcade game.
Right. I mean, like, I think we're talking about just the popularity of a character, whether they have character or not, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
but people know who Pac-Man is.
And Pac-Man definitely has this level of ubiquity that people know who Pac-Man is, right? Like,
yeah. Pac-Man's a funny one though, because of like Pac-Man is on here. Like, is the eye block from Tetris next? Like,
I guess Pac-Man is slightly more like anthropomorphic.
Yeah, he just barely, like, the only reason he beats Tetris out on this list is because he's a character in Tetris,
right?
Isn't it?
Yeah. The only reason he like has a face.
Yeah.
So
just fun, a funny music.
No, I do think Pac-Man definitely deserves a spot on a list like this.
Yeah, he's in Smash Bros.
Yeah. Number 5, Sackboy.
Wow. No.
So I like this pick.
I love
but
Sackboy.
I don't think Sackboy is all that iconic, which breaks my heart. Like, I want him to be very iconic.
Was this people at the BAFTAs voting for this? Because Media Molecule's British.
Right. And this is where we start to see the British bias sort of come in.
Yeah.
So I don't really know how this voting went out. But
if this was game developers in the UK voting, then suddenly this whole list makes a lot more sense.
But yeah, Sackboy, like, Sony's attempt to create like a mascot-like character, and I think it was pretty successful. I just think that they should have kept making Little Big Planet games.
Yes.
That was the biggest fumble from Sony's end. Or
yeah,
Media
Sackboy's
Molecule's
Big
end or
Adventure is
whatever.
nothing. Yeah.
But yeah, as a character, when Sackboy came out, like, he very much was like, okay, this character can be iconic in a way that Nintendo characters are.
Those, like, yeah, those OG Little Big Planet trailers, too, for the first game, the one that had Sleepyhead by Passion Pit, like, that's still, like, when I hear that song, that trailer plays in my head, and I get that, like, feeling in your stomach, you know? Like, the warm, nostalgic feeling.
Yeah.
I love Sackboy. I'm a
Sackboy's
big Little Big Planet head.
Little Big Planet's great. It's a shame that they're both, I guess, more irrelevant now than they should be.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I love them, I never played Little Big Planet 3. I played 1, 2, and Vita. Little Big Planet Vita was, like, insanely good, by the way.
I played 3 a little bit, but definitely not to the extent of 1 and 2.
It was just kind of over by then. Like, what do you add to your... I say that, and then Super Mario Maker managed to pull it off. A pretty good sequel.
I almost feel like Dreams should have been...
It should
like
have been
the
a Little
concept
Big
of
Planet 3D.
Dreams, but with Little Big Planet.
It should have just had the Little Big Planet trappings, like the
Right,
characters
because-
and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, they abandoned all that for like generic sort of ghosts or whatever.
And
like,
it killed it a little.
Yeah, they tried to create like a new sort of face for Media Molecule, and it really did not work.
No, because Sackboy, even the voice was iconic. That like British voice that tells you
The
when
narrator,
to jump and when to leap. Yeah,
yeah, that was great.
and the pods. I love decorating my pod, and
It is interesting. Like, as we go through this list, I'm thinking that like people like Nintendo really have stewarded their characters throughout the decades largely well, you know, like, and then you compare that to Sony and Microsoft and you don't see the same thing.
no,
Like, yes, Sony has some very iconic characters in like Kratos and Ellie and stuff, but they have other characters that have like fallen off. Like, Crash Bandicoot is no longer very relevant. And
Jack and Daxter.
Like Jack and Daxter gone. And for Microsoft, like we said, Master Chief isn't really relevant either too much anymore. And that's in stark contrast to like Nintendo, who really nurtured these characters over decades, and it really worked out well for them.
Yeah.
All right. Number 4. We're top 5. So number 4, Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, that's just right. I mean...
Yeah. And Sonic's a weird one too, where like, whether there's games for him or not, it just seems like he gets more and more popular.
Yeah, he does. His fans are... He's a character that's taken on a life of its own in its fandom. Like... The meme version of Sonic is just as much Sonic to me now as maybe more so than the actual Sonic the Hedgehog character. But like, I think of like fan creations on the same level. I think of his actual games, and funnily enough, some of his games are fan creations. Like Sonic Mania they hired fans to make it. So, but it's funny. Sonic was invented to be an iconic character. He was basically... It's ironic that Shadow the Hedgehog was the one grown in a lab, canonically, because Sonic was a character made in a lab to appeal to kids in the 90s.
And it worked.
It worked well, yeah.
It worked so well that, like, Sonic's so interesting to me because he really does have a presence outside of video games in a way that no other character really on this list has. In that, like... You get new Mario games all the time. You get Mario media, like movies. You get new Pokemon games all the time. But Sonic games do come out, and they're largely terrible. And even when they don't release any games, Sonic just seems to be everywhere all the time.
Sonic is also a character that, like... I saw someone in a Sonic shirt yesterday, and you cannot glean from that person has ever played a Sonic video game. Not necessarily, because Sonic is such a memed character that I had no idea whether or not they were a real Sonic fan or if they just thought it was funny.
So, yeah, well-deserved spot on this list, I think. I think, honestly, if you were to ask me my top 5 iconic video game characters, Sonic would probably be in that list too.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
All right, you ready for this one?
Now that you say that, I'm probably not.
Number 3. And I could give you all the time in the world to guess, and you would never guess this character, I feel like.
Really?
Number 3 is Agent 47.
No, what? What?
Yeah. Agent 47 from Hitman.
As the third most iconic video game character of all time?
I mean, don't get me wrong, I want to live in this world where Agent 47 is the third most iconic video game character of all time. Maybe we get way more Hitman games.
Hitman is niche. Like, more so than anyone else that's been on this list so far. Hitman is a niche game. Like, what?
Yeah, this is the biggest.
Hitman should not be top 20.
Yeah, that's not to say anything bad about the quality of those games. Those are some of the best games ever made,
some of the best,
in my opinion.
Like, there's a good chance if I was listing top 20 favorite games for me right now, Hitman World of Assassination makes that list. Yeah. But
as a character, as an iconic character, Agent 47, wow.
No. He's a fun character. He's a good character, but he's not. No. So
weird, right? Like, that's so weird.
IO Interactive's not even British, I don't think, are they? I'm looking it up. They're Danish. Yeah, they're in Copenhagen.
So I guess maybe the Brits really like Hitman.
They're jealous. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. But there you go. Number 3, Agent 47.
That don't sit right. What's number 2?
I think we could all guess number 2. Number 2 is Mario, and we already know what number 1 is. So that's your list from the BAFTA people. So Mario at number 2, losing out to Lara Croft.
It's a strange list. I mean, I guess most of the list entries we said, like, that kind of makes sense. But
yeah, like, a lot of this list, the placements make sense, but then there's some picks that are so out there that they just sort of render this list invalid. I feel like
Was Master Chief not on this list?
no, we talked about Master
We
Chief.
did Master Chief.
8.
Okay, he was 8. Okay, I'm just thinking like because of these weird ones that did make it. I'm like racking my brain for who deserved to be on this list and wasn't. I guess Samus probably deserved to be on it more than I would put Samus over Lara Croft. I think like.
Yeah, I really strongly feel like that's a you thing. I think Lara Croft is more iconic than Samus, but
Okay.
who's to know? But yeah, very very strange. But I did think it would be fun to go through this list and just sort of talk about each character.
Michael from Grand Theft Auto 5, or who's the
the
crazy
Rockstar
one?
representative was Arthur Morgan, and I think rightfully so. That character is really well written. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I almost think it'd be very interesting to do a top 10 well-written characters, in our opinion, and discuss. And that would probably be a very spoiler-heavy episode, but I think a distinction needs to be drawn between like well-written characters and just like how iconic a character is, because it seems like sometimes that gets jumbled up, especially on this list.
Yeah.
But yeah, so any other kind of iconic characters you want to shout out? I think we went through quite a bit, but obviously there's an endless amount.
Yeah, I mean the Dragonborn, like even though not really a character, but if
Skyrim.
Steve's on here, what are we doing?
I want to shout out Commander Shepard from Mass Effect.
Yeah.
Another sort of self-insert character, but I mean the way the games are written, Commander Shepard definitely has like a pretty well-defined personality. So
Yeah. I gotta look at like some of my most played games to like decide. Oh, for the record, I'm looking at the box right now. For Baldur's Gate, Asterion is not bigger than everyone else. He is in the front though. Spyro wasn't on the list. Spyro should be on the list.
No Spyro on the list.
That's weird. Spyro's big. Spyro's iconic. Dante from Devil May Cry, I feel like is like
he's a big character. Yeah,
he's pretty big.
I guess. I mean, they omitted things like Spider-Man, but I guess that gets into some
Spider-Man's a
fuzzy
comic
areas.
character. Like if we're gonna allow comic characters, like Goku should be on there.
Goku, yeah. So it's probably good that they omitted it.
But if Agent
The
47
Sony-
is on there,
yeah.
like Dante should be there from Devil May Cry.
What
Yeah,
about, Ryu from Street Fighter.
I don't know. Scorpion's probably more iconic than from Mortal Kombat.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. In my head, Mortal Kombat is bigger than Street Fighter. That might not actually be true, though.
I think it would be an interesting thing to compare. I'm not sure, but they're both very big.
I'm really
the two
glad
biggest
that
fighting
Booker
games.
from BioShock Infinite didn't make the cut.
Why would he?
I don't know. I feel like people always like talk about how well written BioShock Infinite is and how iconic it is, and I think it's kind of poopy. It's like fine.
Yeah, I never
it's
played
a decent first person shooter. Don't bother. It's not worth your time. Not in the year of our Lord 2024.
Yeah, I don't know.
Gordon Freeman wasn't on the list. That seems a little weird.
Right, Half-Life.
Yeah.
Another game I haven't played, but I hear tell of it.
I'm just scrolling through my Steam library and getting mad right now. Although I've learned something about myself, which is that most of the games that I play do not have like a character. Like they're more about the world.
The Doom guy.
Yeah, the Doom Slayer. Yeah, there's something for that. I would say Billy Blazkowicz, whatever the Wolfenstein guy, is more iconic.
Really?
Of a character.
You think so?
He's a character. The Doom guy's not really a character. The Doom Slayer, the Doom guy.
See, I guess I think we're still thinking about this in different ways. Like, I don't think they necessarily have to be too much of a character rather than just be iconic.
Yeah, that's
right?
fair.
Like,
but then, where's the farmer from Stardew Valley? Like, we could play that all day.
I mean, this right here is exactly. I mean, this is proof why these polls are hard to complete, because you and I are, with a sample size of 2, have a kind of a different understanding,
different
of this.
idea of what it is. Yeah. Or the engineer.
But no, I mean, I think, I mean, there's so many iconic video game characters out there. I just wanted to shout out a few of them, and we did. From PlayStation, from Nintendo, from Microsoft, from Ubisoft, and from EA, like Mass Effect, Commander Shepard. I think EA, that's EA's most iconic face.
I mean,
to me,
Ezio wasn't on there anywhere, was he?
No Ezio.
No, Ezio should have been on there for sure. Ezio's huge.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. Any final thoughts on iconic video game characters? Anyone else you want to shout out?
This poll was just made to make people mad.
I mean, it definitely did that.
Yeah,
looking
I'm
at the
convinced
discourse online,
it got a lot of clicks. I bet it got a lot of people to click.
So yeah, we recorded this episode 2 days ago, and we haven't really been playing many games since then. So I think instead of games we're playing, it would be fun to each shout out a game we recommend and sort of talk about it. So Connor, do you have a game you want to sort of shout out and talk about?
Yeah, I wish I was shouting out something smaller, but the one I have on my mind right now is Stardew Valley. It just got its 1.6 update, and it's it's a start from scratch kind of update, according to the creator, which is something I've never done. So I did start from scratch. I started playing my current save of Stardew Valley, or my previous save. I started the day it came out, I'm pretty sure. So like that was before they added farm types, and it was before they added a lot of stuff. So the game's a little different now than I'm used to. I'm playing on a different farm type. It feels almost modded compared to what I'm used to, which is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I heard that the new update came out. A lot of people were playing this, and I'm someone who's only very lightly interfaced with Stardew Valley in the past, and it's just crazy that this game is still getting updates to this day.
Oh, it's a GOAT game. It's like, it is the best of its genre by a lot. Like, it is... I liked the Harvest Moon games before I played Stardew Valley. I had played Harvest Moon DS and Harvest Moon Island of Happiness, which I didn't like as much. And apparently those are both, like, pretty poor entries in the Harvest Moon series, although I really liked Harvest Moon DS. But those were all I'd ever played. I knew about Harvest Moon. I'd heard of it as a kid, and I wanted to play it. And then I found out about Stardew Valley, and I was like, oh, they haven't made to my knowledge, apparently they never stopped making Harvest Moon games, but I hadn't heard of one in a long time, and I saw Stardew Valley coming out, and I was like, oh my god, this is incredible. And it's like really hard to go back after Stardew Valley. He just took some really messy systems and cleaned them up. And like, I mean,
Stardew Valley set the new benchmark. Like, that's the game now to beat.
And nobody has, to my knowledge. Like, farming games are still huge. And like a few of them have managed to like carve themselves a niche. Like the Rune Factory games are like farming games and RPGs. And I think a couple of games have been able to do that. But nobody can compete with Stardew Valley in the base, just cozy farming game. It is it is a monolith in that arena. It cannot be beaten. It is so good. And that is still the case.
How substantial was this update that was made to the game?
I actually don't know what's in it. I just have enough faith in Eric Barone / Concerned Ape that he said you should start a new save, and I was like, I like the game. I'm going to start a new save. I'm jumping back in. I really don't know.
Nice.
I know it had a ton of bug fixes. That's not that exciting, but it was big enough that he paused development on his next game, The Haunted Chocolatier, to work on it. So there's got to be like some meat, but I don't know what it is.
I feel like before this update came out, wasn't there talk of the last update being the last one? But seemingly keeps working on the game.
Stardew Valley for sure has the Terraria problem, where he just keeps adding to it, which isn't a problem, I guess. It has but it is what it is, The game, he made enough money off Stardew Valley that he never really needs another banger.
Right.
Although I have no doubt that Haunted Chocolatier will be one. Gotta shout out the soundtrack in Stardew Valley too, by the way. Oh my god.
That main theme?
All of it. Oh my god.
The coziest theme ever.
Most of my time in Stardew Valley was spent in the caves. That's just what I liked doing. Or the mines. I forget which it's called. I know there's Skull Cavern. And then there's the one on Ginger Island as well. And but I spent so much time in the mines. Just the children yearn for the mines, man.
Right, they truly do.
Fun little story. I did perhaps the stupidest thing ever. I was dating a girl named Becca when Stardew Valley came out, and she was like my second girlfriend, my first like real college girlfriend. And Stardew Valley asks what your favorite thing is, and I had put her name for it, and that like comes up a few times throughout the game, and it came up like 2 years after we broke up, and I just like groaned and had to look up how to change that. And you have to like go in and edit your save file. So like, word of advice, don't do that.
So you can't actually do that in the game?
No, I had to go edit a file, and it was Stupid. Don't do that. It's not cute. Don't. I was like 18 or 19 doing something stupid.
Right. Yeah.
Just make it.
Yeah, one of these days, man, I'm gonna play Stardew Valley. Like,
Yeah.
I truly play it, because I did mess with it for a little bit, and I really liked it, but I just got distracted by something. But
Yeah. It's a long game. It's a game you can easily spend like hundreds of hours in. I have 100 hours in it myself, and this is a game I know a lot of people that have like played it over and over and over. And
yeah,
it is also a game in my 100 hours, I have not seen all of the content available to me.
that's crazy, man. Crazy that one person can make a game like this.
Yeah. Crazy good on Nintendo Switch, I hear. I was very jealous of my brother having it on Switch. I have it on PC, but now I have it on Steam Deck, which is the best of both worlds, because I can mod it and play it on the go. Very good on the go game, because the days are fairly short, so you can like play through one day, turn it off, do some other stuff, play through one day. Pretty good loop.
Stardew Valley, huh?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I was thinking about what I wanted to shout out, and I guess I'm sort of still in a sci-fi mood. Like, I'm pretty obsessed with Dune right now, and that kind of led me to wanting to talk about Mass Effect, the original trilogy. So there is a remastered trilogy out there for PC and modern consoles, and that's the best way to experience Mass Effect nowadays. And I think Mass Effect is a truly special trilogy, minus, the controversy with the ending. Like, even with considering that, I think the journey to get to that point is well worth your time. And if you're a fan of sci-fi at all, like, this is a must-play game as far as I'm concerned. Like, this game is one of the hallmarks of video game sci-fi stories, I think. So, Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3, and it's kind of crazy how differently each of those play from each other. Like, Mass Effect 1 had way more, like, RPG elements, and was more of an RPG, really, with, like, third-person shooting elements. And then 2 really kind of pivoted and became more of a third-person shooter with light RPG elements. So as the franchise went on, it sort of got a more like action sort of slant to it, which some people liked, some people didn't like. I personally thought Mass Effect 2 was the highlight of the franchise, so I suppose that the shift in direction from being more RPG light didn't bother me too much. But it's still something really cool to this day that you don't really see too much in video games with sequels, where major decisions you make in the first game, as well as like characters, right? So some characters might die or live or like do certain things. All of those things carry over into the next game. And then game decisions and characters from game 1 and 2 will carry over into the third game. So the 3 games together are really sort of one overarching experience that over the course of around 100 hours or so, I would estimate, right? Like, that's how long it would take you to play all 3 games and really like play them and not just beeline the main story. If you beeline the main story, you could probably be done in about half that time. Right, like, so 50 to 100 hours of like just living in this extremely well-realized sci-fi universe. And I don't do this with many games, but with Mass Effect, I remember, especially when I was playing the remastered trilogy when it came out, like, I don't know, sometime last year or the year before, is that I would just sit down and read the codex entries in that game. So, like, that's not something I really do for a lot of video games, but the lore in Mass Effect and just the world they built was so interesting. Like, I was just eating that stuff up. So, if you're a sucker for well-realized sci-fi worlds, I think Mass Effect is a game you should definitely check out. And you probably don't need me to tell you that. Like, Mass Effect is still to this day an extremely popular franchise that has been, I guess, somewhat marred by Mass Effect Andromeda. But there is news that Mass Effect 4 is in development, and they've got a lot of the senior people from the original Mass Effect trilogy working on Mass Effect 4. So if you're a fan of Mass Effect, that should give you some degree of hope that it won't turn out a disaster like Andromeda did. But yeah, Mass Effect, awesome game franchise. And Connor, you never played it, did you?
No, I haven't gotten around to it. I have aesthetic issues with early Mass Effect 2 and 3 less so, but I don't like the way 1 looks. And,
and with the
that's literally
remastered trilogy, I think one got definitely the biggest graphical overhaul. Like, it still has the bones of like an older game, but in terms of like improvements and modernization, one got the most effort put into it on the remastered games. So maybe it addressed some of those issues, but yeah, it's a really good sci-fi RPG with continuous progress. And I think that continuous progress is the thing that really makes it set out the most, because I can't really think of too many games that do that anymore. So, Mass Effect. That's the game I'm shouting out. All right. Any final thoughts before we head out, Connor?
Nope.
All right. Thank you all for listening. You can follow us at Podcast Game Talk on Twitter, Instagram, and Game Talk on TikTok. Click the link in the description to join our Discord and talk to us there. Please like, rate, and review us on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other podcast services you use. Thank you, Connor.
Yeah. See you next week.
See you next week. Bye.